Welcome back to the third season of A Flourishing Start. Today's topic is a fun one, Social Emotional Learning, or SEL. A recent LA Times article titled Bugs and Bubble Breath spotlighted the importance of teaching little ones not only their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but also skills like breathing and knowing how to identify and process their emotions. But what does this look like in practice, and how do little kids learn? These are some of the questions we will explore with our guests, Pam and Lolade. And with that, I wanted to go ahead and welcome in Pam Cajucom. She is the school health education consultant charged with leading social emotional learning and mental health, who joined the California Department of Education's Office of School-Based Health Program in the Whole Child Division in October 2023. Pam has over 20 years experience in implementing and coordinating student support centers serving the behavioral health needs of students and their families. She received her master's degree in clinical psychology with a marriage, family, child emphasis from Pepperdine University, her school counseling degree at CSU Sacramento, and holds a Pupil Personnel Services credential. Welcome, Pam, to the podcast. Next up, we have Lolade Gbadebo. Lolade is a mother to a 5-year-old child who recently started kindergarten. Lolade also plays a crucial role in the community, serving as a children's librarian. Her library is directly serving 2 elementary schools. We are so happy to have the both of you here talking with us today as experts in your field. And so let's just get straight into it. Pam, can you start off by sharing with us what is SEL and why is it important?
Of course. So I'll get to it in the last couple of sentences, but we all know that academics are important, that reading, writing, math, and science, they lay the foundation for our child's education. But those academic milestones, they only tell half the story. The other half is how our children develop their self-confidence and their self-identity, how they develop relationship with others, how they develop empathy and their ability to make decisions. These skills are learned through social emotional learning, popularly known as SEL. And SEL is important because it helps children really understand who they are. It helps them learn how to manage their emotions, build healthy relationships, make thoughtful decisions, and navigate challenges with resilience, otherwise known as learn how to solve problems. And can you imagine the kind of world we would live in if every child starting from preschool was given the tools to thrive, not just academically, but social emotionally as well?
Wow, I'm literally picturing that world right now in my head, Pam, and it's a beautiful one. I'm a little shocked right now about how beautiful this world is, and that's why it's so important that we're having these conversations. So thank you for opening it up that way. As a follow-up though, Pam, what is the potential impact of SEL if it were implemented well? For example, let's say we have a generation in which every young child engages in social emotional learning from preschool age on up. What do you think would be different about that world?
So the impact would be massive. So before we started on, in my professional career, started on the social emotional journey, I worked at a couple of elementary schools for 23 years. I was at one particular elementary school for 23 years, charged with working with the whole child. And from day one, 23 years ago, I imagined what that community would look like. And here I am answering a question that you just posed, right? So the impact would be massive. Our children would experience, live, and model healthier relationships. And in those relationships, be able to prioritize not only their own well-being, but at the same time, prioritize the well-being of each other. They would be able to navigate challenges personally in school, at work, and in life. It's a future where we see abundance, a huge abundance of kindness, rippling throughout the community. It's a future where we see understanding and resilience in every corner of our society, where communities shine, where in our communities we will have found over and over again that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I have to tell you, the school where I started over almost 24 years ago, the academic portion, right? There was room to grow. And I told myself that, okay, when we reach 10 out of 10, so 10 out of 10 is the highest you can go. And when we reach 10 out of 10, then we have found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And it was probably, 12 or 13 years later, even sooner, we did reach 10 out of 10. And we had systems in place. We didn't call it SEL back then, but it had all the components of SEL that was necessary for our children, our staff, and our communities to thrive. And when I say that, I include the parents. So I know that this is possible. I know that we can live in a world where we do see an abundance of kindness, understanding, and resilience in every corner of society where communities shine.
Thank you, Pam. That was beautiful. I wanted to bring in Lolade. You're a mother, you're a children's librarian, you're an expert. Can you share with us a little bit about your journey in preparing yourself and your little one for kindergarten?
For sure. It's funny because the journey starts off just by signing your child up. So it's a lot of paperwork and forms and making sure you're doing it on the right date and submitting it in time. And so it starts off very logistical. And my daughter had been at the same preschool since she was about 2.5. So we were lucky that she was in the same place for, more than half of her life, for about 3 years. And so I felt like I did need to prepare her as early as I could, because it is such a big change for a kid that their whole community will shift. She'll be in a new space, a larger space. So as a librarian, of course, I started bringing home books about starting at new schools and just like getting her acclimated to the idea that she'll be in a new place and she'll be learning new different kinds of things. And that definitely helped her sort of mentally and emotionally prepare. As we got closer to the date, it did seem like she was more nervous, knowing that all of her friends would be going to different places. And one thing that her dad actually was saying a lot to her is that all of the kids will be brand new. So she's not the only one there that has to start all over and make new friends. All the kids are on that same page. And I think that really helped her feel more ready and not as scared.
I think it's like kind of knowing you're not alone, almost, even strangely enough, when you're a little child. That is actually a very big, scary feeling to think you're gonna be alone. And so I know transitions are big. I mean, whether you're a child or an adult, everyone needs transition times, and it could be difficult. So thank you for sharing a little bit of the tips that you have with having your little one be prepared for kindergarten in particular. Lolade, is there any other advice that you have on how else to prepare your little ones for the feelings they might have either before or even after school?
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like the first couple weeks she started her kindergarten year, she wasn't as like forthcoming and telling me about her day, and I had so many questions, and I think she was still like processing everything because it was such a massive change for her. But definitely now, like, fast forward, we're almost 2 months in, she'll tell me all about her friends, and her best friend's going on a trip, so she's gonna miss him, and she tells me about what they do in PE, and they go to library every week, and she'll tell me about the new Frozen book that she got. And so I feel like just being there with open ears, listening, really helps with her willingness to share. I'm happy that I still was asking those questions, although she wasn't as like forthcoming in the beginning. And it's nice that in the morning before I drop her off, we can walk there together. And I can ask her a little bit about like, oh, are you having library today? Do you have music? Or things like that can sort of help her sort of mentally prepare for the day. And then afterwards, I feel like our best conversations happen like right at bedtime. And I'm like, I know she needs her rest, but that's sort of when her brain starts to like decompress all the thoughts and all the things that happen through the day. And so that's like another opportunity to to have my ears open, listening. And mm-hmm.
I am not a mother, so I'm actually taking notes. Working for parents, because honestly, school can be daunting and at any age, honestly, going into middle school, going into high school.
Yeah, definitely.
But like to be able to really think about what that means for a young child, it's different. It's really different. And you really are opening my eyes, Lolade, to a lot of helpful opportunities that we can provide young children to prepare themselves for school during the day, and even like ending the day and the night on a note of like thinking and processing everything that happened during that day and the whole time that y'all were apart, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lolade, it was helpful. Mm-hmm. But on that same note about young children, Pam, what does SEL look like for young children? Are there any examples that you can share with us about what SEL looks like for preschool, kindergarten age children?
Right. So, SEL is all learned. It is, and, we're not born with the skills that we need to survive, the soft skills or the academic skills. So, and you have to nurture it intentionally, right? So in the classroom, SEL might look like children learning to label their feelings, such as happiness, frustration, or sad, and understanding how to manage those emotions appropriately. So, for example, a teacher might guide a child through calming strategies, like taking deep breaths, and different ways to take deep breaths, or like what was that in the very beginning, the bubble?
Bugs and bubbles.
Bugs and bubble breath. I love that. So, so that's what would it be? It would be the teachers really teaching them how to manage them and modeling for them, and as well as parents too, modeling these practices and modeling how I feel. Oh, anything. So if something had happened, that a parent might say, oh, wow, that really hurt my feelings. But you know what? I am going to take a deep breath before I respond. And then I'm going to talk to, that person to see if I can repair the harm that has been done. Or, So we need to teach our children how to label their feelings and to identify feelings, first of all, before labeling, and then teach them strategies, using words, using skills, instead of reacting impulsively. This helps our children develop awareness, self-awareness, and also emotional regulation, and helps them stop and think and then problem solve as well. Another example of SEL in action is through activities that promote empathy and cooperation. During playtime, children might be encouraged to take turns, share, resolve conflicts peacefully. If two children want to play with the same toy at the same time, the resolution is taking turns. And how can we do that? A teacher or parent might model how to listen and model asking how somebody else is feeling, and then work together to solve the problems. They teach this, how could it not teach our children to develop and build healthy relationships and develop that empathy and practice social skills that are important to have throughout our lives. So SEL is about creating for our young children a foundation of that emotional intelligence, so that we can have positive social interactions, so that we could make responsible decisions. And I think also it's super important, coming from the education from a school site, from K-12, that homeschool communication is super important. So that the caregivers, the parents and the caregivers know what is taking place in the classroom, that social emotional learning is taking place, and this is what we did today, right? So that hopefully, and then encouraging parents or saying to reinforce and practice those skills that they learn with their children.
A lot of food for thought there, Pam. Lolade, I'm curious, have you had any experiences with SEL being taught to your daughter, like in preschool or kindergarten, maybe some books that she's talked about around that?
Yeah. I feel like at her preschool, they did a really good job encouraging the kids to be helpers, which I really loved. The fact that she would help the teachers with passing things out and cleaning things up, and that sort of like it definitely, I could see it at home when she would help me clean and whatnot, but it definitely sort of gave her a sense of responsibility, but also like, responsibility for like to other people, which I really admired. At her kindergarten, the elementary school where she goes, they use this really amazing tool that it's called the Toolbox Project, where there's I think it's 12 tools, and they've been focusing on like the listening tool. There's one called the garbage tool, which is like letting go of little things, like you throw it in the garbage. There's a breathing tool that they do every morning. They breathe in, they breathe out. That's so awesome. And there was one day, actually, I think last week, where I was upset about something and she could tell, and she was like, "Mama, try the breathing tool." And I was like, "Of course yes, thank you. That's a great idea." I'm just happy that like she thought to really like apply it. Like outside the classroom. I don't know. Yeah, that kind of blew my mind.
I was literally gonna say that just blew my mind.
Yes.
Like, I think this is what a good model looks like for very young children. Because,
yeah,
right, Lolade, your child's 5 years old?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she'll be 6 in December.
Happy early birthday to Lolade's child.
Yay.
Wow, that was beautiful. Pam, do you see this being an opportunity for teaching SEL in early childhood grades like TK and Kinder? What are some opportunities for teaching this information?
Yeah, so there are so many opportunities available. I love that, Lolade. I mean, I'm just listening to her from the very start of this podcast, how SEL is so present in their family life and then into school and then coming back to their family life. So the opportunities at school is that there really should be systems in place for SEL in every part of the campus, on the playground, in line, in the cafeteria, at PE. And the opportunities to learn could be at every transition, from the beginning of the day when the kids walk into the classroom and the teacher makes eye contact and greets the student. I've seen so many talented teachers who model SEL doing this, that they have structures in place, such as coming in from recess and what we call circling up on the carpet to talk about the highs and lows of recess. How was recess, right? Give me one word to tell me how recess went. And it's a good pulse for our teachers. Fun. It was hot. I made a friend, right? Or not so good, right? It's a good pulse. And when students, if they're doing the circling up every day, coming in from recess or in a transition, the students will feel more comfortable throughout the year to share a little more. So, and it could also give opportunities to problem solve, to teach and learn empathy, to express feelings, identify and express feelings throughout the whole day. And at the very end of the day, intentionally practicing a gratitude activity, right? So, and which could be as simple as, what one thing are you thankful for today, right? So, of course, it is so beautiful. It really is. But when we're talking about our TK and kinder classrooms, it really needs to be taught explicitly. And so that's when I say, when systems are in place, teachers really learn, because there's so many resources out there for teachers to learn how to put SEL in place throughout the day, so that they can really explicitly teach the students every step of the way how to identify feelings, how to state feelings, how to problem solve, even how to sit in a circle and take turns, right? It's so many learning opportunities throughout the day. And I just have to say, Lolade, I love your child for taking what she learned and bringing it home.
Thank you.
So awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how tall or little your little one is, Lolade, but I just picture, like an adult, even the size of myself, and a little one teaching me. It's like the ripple effect, right? The ripple effect of, like, it starts at home and then it spills out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I'm still just very shocked about that, because I didn't grow up with that, like I'm very much done with K through 12, right? And I don't really remember much of SEL being even a topic of conversation. So I think, like, we are in a very unique time in our lives, especially when it comes to the social emotional learning, Pam, like you mentioned. So Lolade, as we mentioned earlier, you are also a children's librarian who directly serves 2 elementary schools. I have been a witness to your expertise on being able to play with a group of children from a wide range of ages. I think I saw, like, children as young as 1 to, like, 6-ish all be in a room with you for about an hour or so, Lolade. So could you tell me a little bit about the approach you use with young children who are in TK or younger that you have interacted with?
Yeah. I like you were saying, I work with 2 elementary schools next door. But we also have story time every week. It's sort of like a big, I always call it like a toddler party. We use the whole community room. We have toys and snacks and just, like, free play for at least an hour. And then there's about a half-hour story time. And I feel like the biggest thing for the very young is to, like, really be at their level, and be playful and open. obviously I try to choose songs and books that will work well with those ages. It's a lot of repetition, which is what kids need. So we'll probably do the same song for about 6 weeks. And then we'll change it up a little bit. And it seems like it's funny because I work with 0 through 14, I guess is generally what the service is for children's librarians here in Oakland. And it takes a very different approach working with babies versus tweens. But at the end of the day, it is really just about making connections, personal connections.
Thank you so much for uplifting that connections piece. It is so important to have and build those connections from adult to child. So I can say that you definitely have a connection with all those children. I feel like anyone that walks into your room, they'll probably think you've known them for years, but you probably just met them last week or maybe a few months ago. But the point is that you have built that connection and it shows. So thank you for doing that for the youth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
This is the part in the podcast where you both could ask each other questions. Feel free to take your time to think of one, but feel free to just ask each other anything that has come to mind during this podcast.
Pam, I'm wondering, how long were you a teacher before you decided to get your master's in psychology?
Actually, throughout where I went, I did my undergraduate, and then I took a year off and just did some worked as a admin assistant just to take some time. Then I went right back and got my master's in clinical psychology with marriage, family emphasis. And then after I got my master's, I worked with a foster agency. And then after foster agency, I worked with pregnant parenting teams. So sorry, to answer your question, I was never a teacher.
Wild. I see.
Yeah. So I got my school counseling degree. I got into education through a grant. And my charge was to build a student support center that integrated all kinds of services into the school. So if you look at the whole child, we want to make sure that any barrier was removed so that our children could come to school every day and ready to learn. So whatever that barrier was, physical health, safety, mental, emotional health, right? Or anything that. So we worked with our families, our students, our teachers to put those systems and the infrastructure, those systems in place. It's kind of like I don't know if you've heard of community schools, but it was kind of like the community schools back then, which actually, without getting too technical, is a Healthy Start grants that now have evolved into what our community schools grants are. So we did that. I didn't do it. I did that with parents and teachers and students, forming what it was and is that we needed for our community to thrive. And so it wasn't just working with the kids and their academics. It was working with the students and any of their needs. And then SEL really just came about in our district about 14 years ago. So SEL is everywhere. SEL existed before it became SEL, but and what I want to say is that SEL as putting systems in place is super important because it's intentionally working on the emotional intelligence, the SEL skills, intentionally marrying that with academics, where we have seen great strides in our students and our communities doing well doing the best they can and thriving. So short answer, I wasn't a teacher. My education all when I was in my 20s. So
that's awesome, though. Thank you. So you're coming at it like specifically from a psychological, a mental health lens.
I am.
I see.
Lolade, I love that you work with 2 elementary schools. A lot of 0 to 6, but your charge is 0 to 14. I get it. Mm-hmm. How did you come to partner with those schools, and how lucky are they?
Oh my gosh, so lucky. It's an amazing, so it's a joint use space. So the library is on school district land. And I think it's just one of 2 libraries here in Oakland that have this joint use agreement. And it's 2 elementary schools. Each class visits regularly, so they can check out books and get book talks and fun stuff that we plan here for them. It is very lucky because a lot of libraries here, school libraries in Oakland have been closed for years. They are coming back now, but it's just so wonderful that all these students, it's over about 500 students probably total between the 2 schools that have access to new, beautiful books. And we have a nice, it's a new space. It's, I think it opened in 2011. So it's still a very new, bright looking library. And yeah, it's, I've been at this branch for about a year now. But I've been with Oakland Libraries for about 12 years. And I've worked at different locations, and this one is just so unique and so special.
It sounds so special, and they're so lucky. And I'm sure you feel a lot of love within those communities, and that's their pot of gold right there.
Yeah.
We have lots of pots of gold. That's a huge pot of gold for them.
Yeah, for sure. I love it.
I have some follow-up questions for the both of you before we wrap up, yo. Thank you so much for your time. Pam, if a parent or a caregiver feels like they don't know how to start SEL conversations, what are some learning tips that you have for them?
I love this question. Is mostly, one of the reasons is because parents do know how to start SEL, and parents have the skills because SEL is everywhere, and we've labeled it and for good reason, so we can intentionally teach it in our school systems and in our communities. But so first of all, I would always let a parent know that they have the skills. When they communicate with their children, they have the skills. When they hug and hold their children, those are those skills. But some learning tips, some practical ones, model your emotional expression, model how you regulate your emotions. When an adult is feeling frustrated, when a mom or dad or caregiver is feeling frustrated, label it. I'm feeling frustrated right now, so I'm going to take 3 deep breaths, right? And that teaches our children that it's okay to feel strong emotions, but it's important to handle them in healthy ways, to be able to manage them. So other ways, another tip that I would say is to create opportunities for social interaction, a play date, family time. And during these times, guide the children. If they see someone at a play date or at a family time alone, maybe ask them, what can we do to make sure that everyone feels included, right? And then offer suggestion, go back and forth with suggestion. this helps our children learn empathy and learn how to navigate situations, maybe solve some problems. Encourage problem solving. So when conflicts rise, rather than just jumping in to fix them, again, guiding the process of solving the problem. Ask open-ended questions. What do you think what could we do to make this, problem better? How could we solve this? And then give them space. So I think that, those are the top few that I would recommend.
Thank you, Pam. That was really beautiful and very practical for a lot of the tips you shared too, and really focusing in on like parents, you have the knowledge already, even if you think you may not. It's like kind of embedded within them, right? So to end the podcast episode, Lolade, as a children's librarian, do you have any book recommendations for families to check out related to social emotional learning, understanding feelings, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. First, I want to say again, as well, thank you, Pam. I was taking notes on what you were just saying. And I definitely do. There's probably right now there's 3 in my hand that I want to show. One is, it's a new picture book. It's called One Upside Downy Day. This is a great one. And it follows different different kids feeling different emotions. You'll see different scenarios that happen, fighting over a book, feeling grumpy, feeling anxious, feeling sad. And at one point, pretty much I hope I'm not spoiling the book, but at the climax, one girl just yells out, "It feels so good to cry." So it's just so great that she's able to get it out. And then they do some breathing. This one is a great one. I shared this one with CDC class, so the kids are 3 and 4. Another I really, really love, this one's a series. I think this is the first one, Breathe Like a Bear. And it's a bunch of different mindfulness exercises. They have ones for mindful eating. They have ones for starting your day, ending your day. The illustrations are also just beautiful. And yeah, and this author actually, now they're making board book versions that are great for toddlers. There's just really beautiful animal illustrations and things in this one. One that I love that's for older kids, I think I generally read it to maybe kinder and first graders, is called After the Fall. And it sort of imagines what happens to Humpty Dumpty after the fall, after he falls and cracks his shell. Oh yes, After the Fall, how Humpty Dumpty got back up again. And this is a beautiful story of Humpty Dumpty essentially is a birder. He loves watching birds, but he falls off a high wall. He gets fixed at the hospital, but now he's afraid of heights. He won't even sleep up in his bunk bed. And I won't spoil the ending of this one because it's just too beautiful, but essentially he learns to have a good challenge for himself. And he tries and he tries. Now he's trying to make a paper airplane. He tries and he tries. And finally he gets it just right. He makes the most beautiful paper airplane. These ones I really, really love. Another that's incredible is called Allie All Along, where it's about Allie and her brother. Allie, they're coloring, and Allie's crayon breaks in half, and she's so angry, and so suddenly she turns into a big fuzzy monster, and she has to take off each layer of her costume to try to bring herself back down. And her brother tries different ways of calming down. Does she want to hug a stuffed animal? Does she want to punch a pillow? Does she want to cry? And eventually she gets back to being Allie all along. And then there was one, oh my gosh, the color monster. I wish I had that one right here to show you. Do you know this one? You do? Awesome. Yeah, it's essentially there's a monster who's all jumbled up with his feelings, and he's so confused, and he has to sort of parse out each feeling, and each feeling has a color. Like green is calm, blue is sad, red is anger, and it's just, I love that story so much.
Thank you so much for helping us end on that fun note, Lolade.
Yeah, for sure.
With that comes to the end of our podcast episode of ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and big feelings. Why social emotional learning is critical in early education. Thank you, Lolade. Thank you, Pam. It was wonderful to host the both of you in this conversation. And again, thank you for being the experts in y'all's field.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This was great.
Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the National Center for Youth Law. To suggest a podcast topic or to express interest in being a podcast guest, please email health@youthlaw.org.